Okay, sir. Thank you.
दे रहा है ना कि अभी नहीं है? अभी आवाज आ रही है? इवेंट स्टार्ट में इवेंट स्टार्ट है। ओके, आई थिंक मैम 10 बजे जो स्टार्ट करेंगे 10। हेलो हेलो।
एक बार चेक कर लो कि वर्क प्रॉपर कर रहा है।
Good morning, everyone. We, the Udgam team, welcome you all on the annual business conclave of IIM Sirmaur. In the midst of chaos, there's always an opportunity. And we all know the chaos that we have experienced in the last year. But it also has shown new opportunities of new beginning. Beginning, which Udgam stands for. Keeping this in mind, we are starting the year with hope of better start. For the new beginning, we welcome you all, our panelists, our very own respected director, Ma'am Neelu Romitra, and all our faculty members and all the students. Indian Institute of Management, Sirmaur, was started in the year 2015, epitomizing the characteristics of Himalayas, which are wisdom, knowledge, peace, and rigidity. Based on the same values, today, Indian Institute of Management Sirmaur is collaborating with Scope, the Operations Club, and Markaizen, the Marketing Club of IIM Sirmaur, to conduct the second edition of Udgam. Udgam 2.0, the annual business conclave of IIM Sirmaur, aims to provide Indian industry leaders and industry experts a platform to interact and share their understanding of current trends, opportunities, possibilities in the current marketplace. The event is also planned as a platform to share ideas, happenings, and beautiful memories full of learning. The takeaway for all our viewers would be understanding of multiple years of industry experience in a relevant and humble short frame of time. Udgam 2.0 stands for various business conclaves in many levels. It does not have limits for itself to a particular industry or sector, but instead embraces all the viewpoints amongst all. The theme for the inaugural business conclave for last year was Business 2030. Eminent speakers of conclave were divided into three different panels, which had panel themes of their own. Following the same tradition, this year, Udgam, we are having the panel theme India Beyond 2020. Before we dive into the event, Dr. Vikas Kumar, Assistant Professor of Marketing Management, also mentor of Markais in the Marketing Club, would be expressing his views on the conclave. Sir, you can take over.
Thank you, Saurabh. Good morning, everyone. Uh, Respected director, ma'am, esteemed panel experts from industry as well as academia, my colleagues, my dear students, and ladies and gentlemen. I, Vikas Kumar, Faculty of Marketing, extend a warm welcome to everyone who is going to be the part of this event. When we talk about marketing, there is some connotation in our mind about marketing, but I think there are very few people who know about the origin of marketing. So when we talk about the origin, it actually comes from a Latin word marketus, which means method or place of contact between buyers and sellers. So the meaning of marketing is not limited to the buyers and sellers, but it's more than its origins. It's a kind of umbrella that covers broad and sometimes paradoxical ideas. Marketing is considered as a simple yet significant and full of innovation. It is something that has influenced numerous outcomes throughout human history and continues to do so as well. A marketer's job is never done, as it is the name of the game to be in perpetual motion. It's a concept that is changing unceasingly, and thus we must continue to innovate, improvise, and dream each and every day, specifically in these hard times. Marketers, or you can say the marketing used to be much simple concept. You would simply point out what features your products had that the competition did not, and the money would start rolling in. However, as with changing times, that strategy is not so appealing anymore. Nowadays, a marketer's job is no longer about the things that you are selling, but about the stories that you tell. Okay, how do you engage your customers? So, in other words, you can say that it has become something much more personal, more intimate to each and every customer that you target, and modern marketing has changed to reflect that. So, as previously mentioned, marketing is ever changing and growing. one such gigantic transformation was brought in with the novel coronavirus pandemic of 2019, causing numerous unprecedented disruptions and unexpected and unforeseen consequences. In such a changed world, effective and efficient marketing has become more essential than ever before. So marketers have started to understand and highlight the importance of well-researched and meaningful strategies which can connect to the customers, which can engage them and entice them to spend their hard-earned money on your product and not your competitors. So, keeping this in mind, the Udgam 2.0 team has very beautifully, selected the theme India Beyond 2020, and this theme is further, bifurcated into three sub themes, in which two themes are related to marketing area. So, talking about the first two themes which are related to marketing area, the first one is the marketer's path in remapping landscape during and beyond COVID. So talking about this theme, this particular theme highlights the consequences of the pandemic. Due to the pandemic, as you know, several disruptions and modifications have been noticed throughout the business world in the past year, and continues to do so. A very significant difference is that has come to the business scenario is how brands are innovating their advertising and marketing strategy to combat the global slowdown, and secure successful growth beyond 2020. So having said that, there are certain few changes which are required to be done to combat this slowdown, and this new normal has to be tackled in a very innovative way. So we can say that the things we are facing as a marketer nowadays are quite different from which we were facing a year before. The second theme, which talk about rethinking to enable consumers shift to a digital world while ensuring tactile experiences. So this theme is actually talking about rethinking to enable consumers shift to digital world, which started, you can say, a decade back, but now it is becoming more prominent because due to this COVID pandemic, there are certain restrictions that people cannot buy from the normal brick and mortar stores. So you as a marketer will have to think that how to engage your customers, how to make them buy from the digital platforms. The worldwide lockdowns, as I said, they have forced the marketers to think beyond the normal brick and mortar stores. So so keeping that in mind, now it's on to the marketers to engage customers, to derive the customer relationships and build a trust on these digital platforms, which has certain challenges. And keeping this in mind, now the marketer will have to embrace the digitalization in their businesses, as they were trying to do earlier also. So having said that, we can keep on talking about marketing at a length, but it's not the time to listen to that extent the views of an academic person, but what as we have very good industry experts from marketing area. So let's have a point of view that how do they think about these particular challenges, and how do they think that the company should react to these challenges. So having said that, I would like to hand over to Saurav, and thank you for this opportunity to be the part of this particular event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Those were really nice words and your view. Now, Dr. Pachapan, Assistant Professor of Marketing and Supply Chain Management, also the mentor of Scope, the Operations Club, would be sharing his view and opinion on the conclave. Sir, you can take over.
Welcome, Honorable Director, for this event support, and I welcome to my colleagues and the participants and the students and the experts who have joined for this event. And since our students are the theme of this Marketing and Operations Club, I've identified a right place where to pitch this particular event to come up with a lot of various connectivity between the industry people. And what how I am seeing this particular event is like if you take while I am taking the session for this young minds in the class, many times I talks about a lot of supply chain technologies or supply chain theories and where the various developments has happened, like how the companies are struggling a lot to maintain their or to keep their supply chain very resilential and more sustainable. But suddenly there is no way because the company have been selected or implemented a lot of technologies like an early agile supply chains, green supply chains, and many things are there. But suddenly this students are during this COVID-19, so everything was come down. It was completely it is a flop or something like nothing. None of the technology supported to the company. So that time I had a thoughts actually how to address this specific question. So the students have created this platform where might be this industrial people can explain how they have been approached this situation. And this everyone we know that the COVID have created a lot of problems or a lot of disruption in the economy, and even everyone knows all over the world. But people need to understand that, but they also been a vital lifeline to support their response, like keeping essential medical supplies and food and other key necessities following where they are needed most. There is no doubt that the pandemic has tested the ingenuity, but resilience and the flexibility of the supply chain leaders globally, as they have sought to maintain essential operations. And if I take this specific theme as well as if the students takes an opportunity here, might be this is a good platform which created a connectivity between this industry people as well as with the academicians as well as this young minds what actually we are dealing with in the classroom sessions. And I believe that various themes have been selected is appropriately suitable for this particular event and particular situations. So this is a right way we will gather a lot of information and make a lot of connectivity as well as uh, uh, we will make knowledge sharings also in this. And rightly, I want to thank for giving this opportunity for this arrangers or the club people who have made this possible today. Thank you, and I'm might be Shaurav, you can take over the session now.
Thank you, sir. Now, our respected director, ma'am, Professor Neelu Romitra, would be sharing her views on the conclave. Ma'am, you can start now.
Thank you, Saurabh. In the first place, my congratulations to the team Udgam for conceiving and hosting this event on behalf of Indian Institute of Management, Sirmaur. And of course, thankful to the faculty who mentored this kind of an activity uh, on behalf of our students. And that's how you grow hand holding each other. And I'm sure the kind of, the spirit and the enthusiasm with which this has been conceived and, stirred in terms of connecting with the kind of industry experts that have agreed to sort of speak on the occasion. The list which has been shared by the organizing team, it's indeed very encouraging. And I begin my conversation on this occasion wherein I have been asked in a way to kind of connect to you all my warm welcome to the guest speakers and to all participants. I can see on the attendees list that a figure of 151 people, which I'm sure is going to be a very encouraging response from the organizing point of view as well. The the task which I am assigned with today as the director for Indian Institute of Management, Sirmaur, is more kind of, shall I say, ritual than kind of, shall I say, thematic or area specific. So let me confess in the beginning that I am not a marketing expert, neither an operations expert. But yes, essentially, my association with management as a discipline dates back to now, as a student, I would say, to at least 33 years. So from the experience that I gather by virtue of my association with the MBA education or the MBA students uh, across the forums that I have been associated with through my career till today, when I'm talking today, I'm sure and hopeful as well that whatever I will send as a conversation today to and communicate today, it will make certainly, it is going to make certainly some sense. So with that hope, let me put forth my point of view. When I'm supposed to be speaking on a very important theme and well thought theme, I would say, and which is India beyond 2020. Usually when you come across seminars and conferences and webinars these days for over now at least 10-11 months, or even before that, we were talking about India in 2030, or what is going to happen in a particular date. But this theme is immediately talking about that having faced that pandemic, which is almost like and it was an emergency in the life of everybody across the globe. So it's a something which we have to actually rethink immediately. What's going to happen immediately after 2020, and now that we are in 2021? So I think it's a well thought theme, and in fact, it's a kind of crisis management which we have to address to. When we had this pandemic, no professional in the world, whatsoever discipline we are talking about, even those who are associated with the medical profession, they were undone. What to talk all the of the economists and the management professionals? Forget about area. Anybody who is a living being today was undone by virtue, and we were just our struck with the kind of threat it posed to us. So I was reading the newspaper today, wherein one of the economic advisors in our country, he has commented that forget about the economic well-being. Economy will revive, but lives once lost will never come back. So that's a big statement. So, and it's a point of thought which anybody who is associated with the policy and management, I would say, when we are talking about economy, when we are talking about the revival of the economy or the revival of any kind of coming back on rails, we at no point should forget that all of us who are today talking in 2021, we all face the same kind of threat in 2020, and we are actually living. That's the biggest crisis we faced, and we have survived out of that crisis. I think the biggest lesson that 2020 gave to anybody living today or today on 30th of January 2021, anyone, me or anyone who is participating or anyone across, is that we survived out of that risk situation. We survived out of that uncertainty. We survived out of that crisis. And that's the biggest lesson we have to gather, that as management professionals, call it operations, call it marketing, call it HR, or call it finance, etc., are we able to produce professionals who are able to think about uncertainties? And in the world of uncertainties, are we able to talk about unlearning and relearning writing and rewriting of the rules and the norms that we live by. All the rules that we teach and preach in terms of management, all the things that we talk as professionals in terms of management, are they still relevant, or we need to rethink about what is going to be the kind of management of uncertainty we are going through, right? So I think the biggest contribution any forum, any seminar, any conclave can actually make, I personally feel the biggest contribution would be that the deliberations must address the issue of uncertainty. The training of our students and the professionals who are, going to be the leaders and the managers of tomorrow, in the direction of understanding that fine, we have some defined rules of management as marketing, we have some defined rules of management as operations, but what is it that no management is able to work for? Those rules are not operative. If any rules are not working, what is it that we have to train ourselves in, and in what direction? So I personally feel that hand holding in terms of understanding the rules of the game now, hence onwards, wherein the life to threat is bigger than the threat to economy and the revival of economy. The understanding of connecting to the communities, the understanding of connecting to the giving a perspective of management education and management professionals have to be actually addressed very carefully now. We just can't say that we are going to revive organizations and the corporate and the economy. At the same time, we have to understand that how do we connect with those who actually need the professionals like you, who actually need the expertise and the dexterity of the and the competence of the brilliance of IIMs and their students, who are addressed as, who are perceived as the builders of tomorrow or the builders of the today. I think the biggest contribution any management professional can actually extend is beyond the personal lives, beyond the personal agenda of being just a management student and looking for a personal opportunity. I think all training today has a larger perspective to be addressed to. We think about ourselves, we think about our professional growths, fine. We think about economies, but also connect that development, that grooming, that growth with what you can contribute in terms of your expertise to the world around, to the communities around that you are living with. There are people who need your expertise. There are people who need your hand holding. And I personally feel that this kind of orientation must dawn on any kind of profession, be it management, be it medicine, be it a scientific area, etc., etc. We are living in a world today. If you talk about India beyond 2020, I think the world beyond 2020 must address the communities, must address the priorities, must come back to the values, must make a comeback to the basics actually. Somewhere we forgot the basics. Somewhere we forgot the basics of the values and the lives, which has turned into these kind of pandemics. So this is a warning, not only for lifestyles, the life has shown us, but it is also a warning for all kind of professions we are steering up to or gearing up to. And as professionals, I personally feel it's also our responsibility to give a direction to the curriculum, to give a direction to the understanding of issues in such a manner that we are able to connect the challenges, the problems, the indigenous, and the comeback, how that revival is possible. I'm not sure whether I made some sense in whatever I am able to convey. But since as always, I speak from my heart and it is spontaneous, I really want to send a message across while thanking all the panelists who took out time to join with us. And I would like to actually wish that my faculty works and my fact students' work, and my professionals, whoever association, whatever kind of association is built with the Indian Institute of Management Sirmaur, it is certainly in the direction of understanding the new normal, the new ways of exploring the management education, the new ways of tying up at an interdisciplinary level. Why can't Indian Institute of Management, Sirmaur, tie up with the medical fraternity and do some kind of homework and research and contribute in the management of some and giving out some policy directions? Why can't Indian Institute of Management Sirmaur tie up with an institution which is going into social and anthropological angles and study how this pandemic has affected the lives and the society at large? I think there are n number of ways in which we can collaborate as management education professionals or management professionals to understand in small little ways and contribute in policy formulation, the direction. Why just limit our thought processes to our own arena of marketing, finance, operations, and so on and so forth? Why can't we think beyond the area boundaries and tie up at a multidisciplinary level and bring out some suggestions and provoke discussion in the area? Let's critique, let's respond, let's discuss and contribute in whatever small little ways as possible. And in the end, I really want to thank the organizing team of students, the professors who have mentored it, the participation that we have had today, consisting of, I'm sure, the students, the panelists, and I wish to name each of the panelists, starting from Dola Haldar, Ajita Saxena, Saurabh Srivastava, Sudhir, Mr. Sudhir, and then in the shape of moderator, Ashish Chandra. Then for the panel 2, Dr. Karthik, Vipul Obrai, Nidhi Yadav, and Dr. Om Kumar from IIM Kozhikode. In the panel 3, Amol Nagar, Priya Ranjan, Ankur, Shailesh, and Saurabh Kumar as a moderator. So personally thanking all of you who took out time to come and speak on the occasion. I am not sure whether I made sense or not, but as I said, that it's as a head of the institution who has the responsibility and the wish and hope and desire that Indian Institute of Management takes a lead position in management education. These are the small little ways that we gear up discussion, debate, critique, and bring out some kind of understanding in terms of making an impact, at least in the policy formulation, at least in community handholding, at least some small little ways. And that's how I feel it is possible. But I earnestly and urge anybody who is participating in this seminar and webinar, let's not restrict it to just talking. Let's not just leave it to the kind of hosting it. Let's work a step beyond. If I'm speaking today, let's honor that what is that direction this webinar will take, or what kind of direction these kind of seminars should be like. When we teach in classrooms, that teaching in classroom actually translates and transforms into the grooming of the students, and those students are the leaders of tomorrow. That leadership that these students have to deliver tomorrow, have to unveil in terms of their potential of contribution, must have a sense of value right from today. And an institution, as I certainly feel responsible for that. Thank you everyone for giving me an opportunity to speak and share my views on the occasion. I hope it made some sense. Nevertheless, you have a brilliant panel of experts. The 3 sessions that you're going to have till at least 5 o'clock in the evening. So I'm sure that the deliberations that these experts will share with you in terms of whatever perspectives they are going to talk about, they will be all of value to the participating students. and other guests who are joining this session. Once again, I wholeheartedly thank the student organizing team, the guests who have been invited to this uh, webinar conclave, and the faculty who are currently joining this seminar. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, ma'am, for your such a lovely words. And yes, it sure made sense. A lot of sense. Thank you for your guidance. Now, we would be starting our event with our first panel. Before starting the discussion, let me first introduce to our panel. The moderator for our first panel is Mr. Ashish Chandran, Airtel Sri Lanka. He is an experienced CEO with demonstrated history of working across spectrum of telecommunication industry like Vodafone India Limited and Vodafone Idea Limited. He is a keen learner with knowledge from Indian Institute of Management Ahmedabad, IMD Business School, Poddar Institute of Management. He is honorary respective ABS Gold Award in 2018 and EG's Graham Bell Award in 2020. Let me now introduce to our panel. The panelists are Ms. Dola Helder, Mr. Saurabh Srivastav, Ms. Ajita Saxena, and Mr. Sudhir Putran. Ms. Dola Helder, head Doritos PepsiCo India, an alumnus of SRCC and Indian Institute of Management Kozhikode. She is currently into her 8th year with PepsiCo. In the course of her career, she has captured a brand Doritos into an unparalleled business height which had led PepsiCo to a global flurry. She also had champions in diversity and inclusion and respective PepsiCo Council, setting up PepsiCo India first Indian care policy and system, launching Metro 4 Magic, and co-founding the HOW Forum Cooperative Diva Delhi character are a few contributions in brief. Our next panelist is Mr. Saurabh Srivastav, Chief Marketing Officer and Product Head at Hunrose. An expert in the field of marketing strategy, he is having 18 years of rich experience across a range of sectors from real estate to online gaming. His experience is not only traditional marketing business, but also business in form of startups. We welcome you, sir. The next speaker is Ms. Ajita Saxena, Director Marketing, GetCancer.com, CancerCare.com. She is a strategic planner offering over 15 years of work experience in marketing domain with excellence in developing and implementing innovative marketing strategies. Her remarkable contribution toward increasing the product awareness, footfall, customer acquisition, marketing share, presentation, and revenue across leading brands like McDonald's. Ma'am, we welcome you. Last but not the least, our fourth panelist is Mr. Sudhir Putran, Vice President and Sales Marketing Excellence at Schindler Electric, an engineer by education, but a complete marketing by profession. Sir, we welcome you. Mr. Ashish Chandran, sir, you can proceed with our panel discussion.
Thank you, Saurabh, and warm welcome to all of the panelists here and all the students and the director, ma'am. It's really our pleasure, all of us, pleasure to be here. In fact, we quickly yesterday in the evening we did a quick call among all our panelists, and we were discussing that what are the things that we need to discuss, which could be of an advantage or which could add value to the people who are listening to us. So we have nearly about 200 odd a young budding professional who will be the future of India and probably the world tomorrow, and how in next probably 1 hour 15 minutes we can add some value to you guys. So when we were discussing and also looking at the topic which has been given to us for a panel discussion, which is to do with I think in last 12 months the world is going through the worst possible crisis that it has seen in last one century, and this is going to redefine the way the industry, the economy, our personal life, the way we live those things, and what impact will it have on all these things. And now we have on our panel 5 people from 5 very different industries, right? From a consumer industries to startups, to telecom, to electricals, to the people coming from different areas of economy that we have. So we thought that it is good for all of us to discuss first that what impact did COVID had on each of the industry. That will give you a first-hand experience of how this COVID is impacting and what different companies are doing to overcome the challenge which COVID has put across to all the industries. And how what is their plan, or what is that they have seen in last 6 to 9 months? How have they recovered over this? And then we will discuss, and we will let you we will give you our views on how do we think you should prepare yourself in the industry or in the economic scenario, in case you want to join an industry or you want to start, you want to have your own startups. What new skill sets, what new things which are required probably when the post-COVID scenario will be there, and this is going to become a new normal. So I would like to really invite my co-panelists to share with all of us that what impact the COVID had on their industries, and what are different things that they are looking. So any one of us can start, but I would really request Sudhir, if Sudhir, would you like to go first, and would like to share how Schneider doing it, or how the industry,
Sure.
the electrical system doing it.
Sure. Thanks, Ashish. Is my voice clear?
Yeah, absolutely, Sudhir. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. And first, let me start by thanking IIM Sirmaur for inviting us today. Uh, Interesting. One of the roles as a marketeer is also to be like astrologer. Okay, you need to see ahead, see what's going to happen. And I still remember it was early March, the first week of March 2020, that I prepared a document we presented to the management on COVID and its impact. And just remember, first week of March, we were just getting the first feel of what's happening. Suddenly you realize something is happening. Okay, and we broke this whole thing into 3 sets of countries, and that's the way to, we thought best way to look at it. So you had at one end China and Hong Kong, a little bit of Singapore coming out of COVID. So important to go and look at what was happening there, what did they do, what's happening to the industry, what's happening to the market, what's happening to change in the like madam said, the new normal. So it was an early view of what we can learn for others. Okay, so we went in there, we looked at what are the changes happening, and 2 3 key things as a marketeer. There was some sort of a lockdown there which had come out. There was pent up demand. How do you exploit this pent up demand? What do you do? The people are still tentative, so a lot of learning there. Then you looked at another set of countries which were just getting into the middle of it, the thick of it. And primarily in Europe, it was Italy, it was Spain, US. There were some of these countries, Saudi Arabia closer to us, and they were in the thick of it. They needed help. So what, and things were changing. People were not able to move out. There were lockdowns. And how do you still reach customers? How do you still know what is happening to the customer? He's also trying to keep his facility working. He's trying to make his factory running. Which segments were still working overtime? Okay, remember, it's not that all segments were closing down and locking down. There was hospitals which were working overtime. There were people who are making sanitizers, they're making face masks and things like that who are working overtime. How do you reach out to them and help them? What do they need? How do you change to digital? Okay, so you move everything to digital, you come up, and in services, remember, I handle services. So for me, the time to bring an offer to market is very small. So we brought in a lot of offers which were digital offers, which you could do it remotely and help the customer to keep his plant running. How did digitization help at those times? A lot of learnings and a lot of quick reactions which were important because you had to help customers. There were sales guys sitting at home who were working on it. How do you help them? How do you use this time to sell different kind of offers, like say training, use webinars to reach customers, like what we are doing today? Very interesting. And then there was a third category of customers like India, Australia, and all those at that time in March, who were just entering. So what do you bring as learning from there and prepare here? What business continuity plans and offers you can sell to customers? I think lot of learning. And to me, the the message only was from the whole thing, people who are agile and quick, the companies which you will see will thrive and do very well and continue to do well, are the ones who are agile and very quick to react. They didn't wait for things to happen. They saw what they took best practices from one part of the world, implemented in other part of the world, and quickly took off. Okay, so if I was to bottom line, what I think was, and it's a great thing. And as we talk more later, Ashish, I want to talk about how she mentioned the new normal, how this some of the learnings are going to stay with us. It hastens technologies like digital, artificial intelligence, and things like that. I think it's a fascinating new world these young people will enter. Thank you.
Absolutely, Sudhir, bang on. I think what you said is absolutely right, and that's exactly what I'm seeing across, even in the industry that I am. The agility and quick response, the changing scenario is something which is very critical, and most of the companies which are doing well are the ones which are adopting this. So I would like to hear a little bit more from Ajita. Ajita, you've been in McDonald's and you've been the marketing head for McDonald's, and then you started your own venture, and it's like Get Cancer Care. You're a co-founder. So how's the industry on the startup sides and other stuff is getting impacted by COVID, and what are some of the things that you are doing to overcome that? Ajita, are you there?
I think you're on mute.
I can't see her.
Oh, we can't see her also. Yeah.
We can't see her. So probably she has dropped. So not an issue. So we'll move to Dola. Dola, you also come from Doritos, PepsiCo, worldwide company, and I'm doing a lot on the consumer side. So what has been your experience during this COVID times?
Sure, Ashish, and before, thank you so much for having us here. I always say Saturday mornings are time to catch up on all the additional learnings out there in the world. So thank you for having us. Great to hear Neelu ma'am and her point of view on how academics and industry can actually work so much closer, more so in today's time. I'll just build on where Sudhir sir kind of dropped off, and I'll pivot more towards CPG, more towards FMCG, and within that more on snacks, because let me give you a perspective. We are not an electronics company. We are not a consumer tech company. We are not a healthcare company. We are in the business of selling potato chips. I mean, let's put it out there, right? 90% of our volume, 90% of our business comes out of traditional trade. And when I say traditional trade, I refer to Raju Kirana store. Pack is our largest selling SKU. Now, when you have a dynamics like that, when you know your modern trade is very limited, when you know your e-commerce is even smaller, what do you do when you're all of a sudden given a red signal and said that, oh, you can't operate anymore because all these stores are shut, because there are lockdowns, because people are not going out to these markets and buying. So let me walk you through specifically the journey on Doritos and also on larger brands, Lay's and Kurkure that we had. And let me split it in three parts, okay? First, when COVID really hit us, then how did we kind of recovered? And on a long-term basis, and we'll talk more during the session around that, what do we intend to do? Now, right during March, early March, like Sudhir sir was mentioning, COVID had just started coming in. 22nd, 23rd of March, the lockdowns were announced. When the lockdowns happened, we were shut. We were shut shop. And we were we usually sit on about 7 to 8 days of inventory in terms of raw material, packaging material. And these are perishable items because we're in the business of food. Obviously, all of them had to be washed away because you can't use it. So they did expire for us. So all of a sudden remember the ages, and I'm sure students at IIM Sirmaur are going through case studies on lean business management and 2-day inventory, nahi usko bhi aadha kar do, half a day inventory and all of that. From there, we realized that it can't work like that because we need to have our own capabilities, and the lean system needs to be balanced out versus self-dependence. So that was our first learning that we got picked up. Right after a bit of lockdown when it started opening, because till then, about close to 20-21 days, we were completely shut shop. We did not do anything. Right after we recovered, there were restrictions on how much you can operate on. So we were told that you can only operate on 30% labor capacities in your plant. only 50% of sales force in a distributor point can go. Only X number of hours in a day you can work. Now think of a brand which, like Doritos, which is 5-year-old in the country and does not even 1/10 of the business that brands like Lay's and Kurkure do. And these have been in the market for 20 years now. What do you do as an organization? You choice out because you have limited resources. So you're going to say that, hey, I'm going to pull the cord on Doritos for 2 months. I cannot manufacture Doritos because if there are 2 employees working in the plant, let them manufacture Lay's because that's going to sell faster and we need to get our basic revenues in. We need to hold our people in. So think of a brand manager who has a base, who has a year-end appraisal process for 2 months. So, and we took that call consciously. We agreed that we will do this together. That was the right thing to do. I mean, if there is no Lay's, if there is no Pepsi, there is no PepsiCo. Those are the brands on the door that we have. So 2 months without any product. However, that was the issue on the supply side. The demand side was always kicking and running. I mean, when you're in the business of snacks and you are trapped in home, your consumers want more of you. People were watching more of content on TV, they were bonding more with friends, they were bonding more with family, and they were consuming more of us. So all of a sudden, our consumer complaints on Instagram, on all the Doritos handles shot up. While we did not have revenues, we in fact invested on speaking more to consumers at that time. And one of the unprecedented decisions that we took that it's okay not available. Where you are in terms of as a brand, don't stop talking to your consumers. I mean, I've had Instagram messages which said, "You suck." Like we want you as a brand, and you're not there. And so will you have hired on to help going through, but conversation going, and that release, and the moment the full functioning days, it take us about 10 days up the plan completely ramp that productions were made. A lot of gusto creation had to happen. I mean, getting on and telling salesmen, because they've been selling it for 2.5 months. So we did all of that, and then once the pipeline started filling up, we knew we now need to get back with a bang so that the blip can happen. And we could not wait for the regular business to start coming in, and that's when the Airtel promo got kicked in. And we'll talk more about it during the session. But we curated a special consumer promo, and the currency of that promo was data. I mean, last year, 2019, we worked with Paytm and said, we'll give you cash back. We realized when people are in home and using a lot of internet and a lot of data is the new currency, and data is in cash. So we changed that offering and rolled out a pan-India, promo of data just to get the business back. To give you a perspective, from 2 tons a month in the month of April, in the month of January now, and we've just closed January, Doritos is back to 400 tons. Hands on wood, this is the largest that the brand has ever done in the 5 years. So a lot of consumer love coming our way, but 2 big learnings. You need to, as a business person, prioritize, take hard calls if need be, but then stick to it. Number 2, keep your communication going with consumers, even if everything is down the drain, because these people are there to stick with you. So yeah, and let's talk more about the promo and about the stuff that we did over and above to get the business back.
I think, Dola, you brought in a very good perspective, because I'm on the other side of the promo, and I know how this promos got created, and it didn't kick up in the first few things, and we extended, and then suddenly this kicked up. And I think that also bring into another aspect that you're talking about, that in the time of crisis, it is very important to have alliances and have the right partners, because you cannot do alone. And these kind of times is the importance of partnership alliances comes as the most important factors in the success of your company. So you can't fight these kind of things alone. So suppose if India wants to fight it alone, but the China is not doing well, or the US is not doing well, alone as a country or alone as an industry, you can't do well. You have to take care of the entire ecosystem that's running around around you. And this, I think this crisis also made us realize that we are not any more independent entities where we can run the way we wish to. We are interdependent entities, and hence the entire ecosystem needs to be taken care of. So Ajita, we were talking and we missed you. I think there was a
there was some technical glitch.
yeah. So Ajita, we wanted to understand from you, because you come from another food industry, McDonald's. You've been the marketing person in McDonald's, and then you get into the startup and you founded this Get Cancer Care. Now, how's COVID impacting your industry as such, as especially startups, and what are some of the things that you are doing to overcome that?
Right. So first of all, thanks a lot to the faculty and students of IIM for inviting me here. And a big hello to all my fellow panelists. See, I would like to bring a different perspective on what really happened during COVID and after COVID. I think Dola and Sir has shared very valuable insights on the same. I am currently operating in the online healthcare tech space. And what we noticed was primarily 4 key behavioral shifts, in consumers during and after COVID. Also, we assume that it would continue. The first has been there has been a huge digital migration, which happened during COVID. And as per the McKinsey report, which came out somewhere in November 2020, it said that most of the 70% of the consumers or people who went online and transacted on online for the first time, they are going to continue with this habit of theirs. So which means that whatever, the new consumers, which as a digital economy has witnessed, it's likely to continue even in the future. And how it has impacted my industry is in the online healthcare space. Now we deal with cancer patients, and most of the cancer patients, we got a huge influx from the smaller towns and cities. Because what happened earlier, these people used to travel to a bigger place like Delhi or Mumbai to get a specialized treatment for their ailments like cancer. Now they could not travel because of COVID. So they looked for other options, and the best option which was available to them was online consultation. So they went for online consultation, got the treatment options, the treatment protocol from a leading oncologist who is sitting in a Delhi or a Mumbai. And then they discussed it with their own treating doctor and followed those kinds of protocols. So what is happening is definitely it's leading to, these patients can save on their time, they can save on the cost of travel, and they're getting the access to right treatment. So now consumers have realized that, it's very much possible with the help of digital. They can get the best valued services sitting at their home. So the second key behavioral shift or the trend which is coming up is the homebody economy. What I mean by homebody economy is now most of us have realized that sitting at our home, the entire economy can come to us, be it education, be it healthcare, be it your entertainment. Even if you want to pursue any hobby or fitness, you can do that at the comfort of your home, and you are working also from your home. So now brands have to reach to consumers within the environment of their home. And when consumers are at their home, they are, at ease. They are not in a hurry. They're not at a retail shop or at a mall to, do the purchase and then quickly move out. There is no hurry, at the consumer's end now. Now, there are 2 key attributes which typically has come up and has become very important for me as a marketer to address. First thing is convenience, and the second thing is value. So now consumers are seeking more and more convenience. Consumers are seeking more and more value. Value in the sense that earlier, in healthcare space, people used to go to, they would think like, okay, I will go to Max Hospital or Fortis or Apollo, and over there would be a good doctor with whom I will seek consultation. Now, those things have completely changed. What consumers or patients are doing right now is they are going online, they are reading reviews, they are reading experiences of other patients, and then they are selecting doctors among the specialty. And it's not necessary that they will go to hospitals physically. They can come to healthcare platforms like Practo, Liberate, or GetCancerCare.com, because the same doctor is available even with us. So they are getting, value. They are seeking convenience. Now, what is happening and what is going to happen in future is what we assume, since whatever purchasing power slightly went down because of COVID. People lost their job. People are seeking more and more convenience and value, which is further leading consumers or people to become more and more value conscious rather than brand conscious. And this is my personal opinion, and this is the trend which I have noticed, that now your consumers will seek more and more value out of you. They would want to know that, okay, you might. So earlier our parameters used to be, when we used to go to consumers, in our market research, we used to ask them, why did you prefer a brand? The top reasons which used to come for preferring a brand used to be typically, it's the most popular brand, everyone uses it, it's the most advertised brand. But that has shifted to, okay, more and more people are recommending this brand. I saw positive reviews about this particular brand or this particular product on the net, which is why I went for it. So this is how the entire behavior shift is happening among consumers. One more question came up from Ashish, which said that what are the kind of actions which we at an organizational level are doing to address these kind of behavioral shifts. One of the most important thing I would say is, what as an organization we are looking at is that we have to exist for a purpose. Now more and more brands and businesses are realizing this, that you are taking away so much from the planet. So many resources you are taking away from the planet. Tomorrow consumers are going to question you that what are you giving back to this planet? That's one. It's not about just planet. What are the kind of things brands are doing to service the humanity? And we saw that during COVID there were brands who really came out, who really helped consumers at large, like brands like Zomato and Swiggy. Typically they came out and they actually distributed a lot of food to migrants, to people who were on roads, and we had seen that, we had witnessed that. And there is a different kind of brand love which consumers will develop for brands who will come with a purpose. Similarly, at getcancercare.com, we are also trying to develop an AI tool which can help economically weaker sections in a way. I would not be able to discuss it in detail, but yes, I mean, that's something which definitely, we as an organization will address too. Talking about McDonald's, I just got reminded of one thing. In US, McDonald's, highlights a lot on the farm to fork kind of, their initiative. So anyone who's ordering a burger in US gets a pack of McDonald's burger, and on the pack there is a QR code. You can scan the QR code and you can see that your food has been procured, how from the farm, which kind of farm, how it has been processed, and how it has been delivered to your table. So this initiative was already taken by McDonald's much earlier than when COVID struck, because they always exist for a purpose. They are a brand with a purpose, and that is how they have survived the last 70, 80 years, when most of the leading brands which we used to heard about, Kodak and all, they have actually faded in oblivion. But McDonald's has survived because they always exist for a purpose. So this is something which I in fact wanted to execute in India, and definitely I am sure, I mean, this is going to happen very soon as well. So these were, and yes, I mean, everybody talks about, digitization of organization, upgrading the skills of your employees so that, they can be tech savvy and all that. So that's anyways, it's not a secret anymore. That's anyways happening. How it has impacted a marketer in the current scenario is, I would say the way we used to formulate marketing strategy is going to change in future big time, and it's already happening. I mean, most of the brands have, I would say, accepted it. So I would like to share that as well. I mean, typically, because since I have been working for the last 15 years, typically how we used to make a marketing strategy and the brand funnel, it used to be like a funnel wherein awareness used to sit at top, then consideration, and then your conversion. So typically brands used to target awareness, then the other segment of consideration, that how can I target these consumers who are considering my brand but yet not converted or tried my brand. And then the last stage used to be, okay, these are my users, they have already converted, how can I keep on upgrading them to better service. Now this model of funnel is going to get obsolete over the coming years of time. Why? And how it will get transformed is primarily it will take a shape of a flywheel. A flywheel means that yes, marketing would play an important role. Then sales and after service will also either add to the friction or they will add to the force. So why I'm saying this is at the end of the funnel, earlier we used to forget the consumer. We were only talking about, okay, how can I upgrade that consumer or how can I retain that consumer? Now it's more about, driving the net promoter score. Can I ask this consumer to review me? Even if it is good, even if it is bad, I mean, I will get to know that how can I improve my product and services. So net promoter score has become the KPI for any marketer today, and it will happen even in the future. That's how the things are transforming, because as more and more people are going digital after COVID, more and more people are engaging with brands on digital after COVID. They are going to share their opinions very freely, like what Dola said. I mean, immediately people started putting up negative reviews, and the way they handled is really, I mean, commendable. So yes, I mean, this is how brands need to engage with their consumers. They, even if they hear negative comments, they have to take it in a very positive way, and they have to focus on driving net promoter score. How can they drive good recommendations, positive recommendations? So yes, so that these were my views from the marketer's point of view, I would say.
I think I think a very good views that you put in across digital migration, homebody economy. I like that concept of homebody economy, that actually you need to get the convenience and value at the home for the consumer, and that's happening. I think with the more digitization coming into picture, more and more products are becoming digital. We are actually shortchanging the entire distribution system, which lies in the middle, and it's like directly brand talking to the consumer, and hence the communication becomes very important. The way you were talking about, whether it is a positive communication or negative communication, we need to keep our ears and eyes open to see what consumers are talking about. Because unless until you know what consumer is talking about, very difficult to respond back and to give to them what they genuinely need. Now, moving from here, we also have Saurabh with us. So, Saurabh, welcome to the panel. And you also come with a very wide experience of working in the online, offline, and now creating the co-living space for the millennials. So what has been your experience, Saurabh, during the COVID, and then how do you plan to continue this post-COVID scenario?
Thanks, Ashish, and very warm welcome and hi to all the panelists and people at IIM Sirmaur, the students, the faculty who's there. I always say that people before me have really done the heavy lifting on this question, and have given a perspective, so it becomes all the more easier. But I will kind of take people a little more back than just pre-COVID. So as a lot of my co-panelists will agree, 2020 was the year that everyone was pinning their hopes on. So I remember when I was in my career in 2012, 13, 14, 15, 20 was the big year. The hockey stick growth for every organization, the new product launches, everything was pinned on 2020. And then 2020 happened, right? And we all know what happened in 2020. So we used to talk about the VUCA world, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. But we used to only talk about it. We saw it happening now, in front of us. So I think as Indians, one of the things that's given us an edge, actually, in a way, in this pre and post-COVID era is our ability to be flexible, our ability to be adaptive, right? Compared to a lot of Western and European countries, we as Indian marketeers and consumers are a lot more resilient. We are ambiguity and uncertainty is our next door neighbor always. So we kind of live our lives like that. So when COVID happened, just before that, I remember in Feb, I was doing my travel plans. So I handle a brand called Hauser, which is into co-living. Primarily, our audience is millennials, which is working professionals, single working professionals. And what we're trying to do with their lives is give them spaces, give them communities where they can thrive and flourish beyond just their career that they're trying to make of, right? And this is where we were pre COVID. There was a lot of competition in the market. Even a PG, which is a paying guest house, was a big competition because that was the unorganized market we were kind of rallying against. Our entire narrative was based around community, co-living, working, collaborations, all of that. And suddenly, COVID happened. So one part was we saw a lot of properties getting close to empty, which was very, very disheartening, right? So you got people together, but then they had no choice now. Some people had lost their jobs, some had salary cuts, some were asked by the because it for them to be there. And we saw that drain really, right? The reverse migration happening in our case, right? But what we did is we kind of divided it into three phases. Now, when I look back, we quickly went back to the storyboard, and we said, what as a brand do we stand for? So as a brand, we had always stood for community and collaboration, right? So that was a universal truth, really. That, and when we went back to the storyboard, we started doing a narrative. So our tagline earlier used to be "Let's co-live." Now, with a lot of this uncertainty of people who don't know each other, did they want to live with each other, did they want to stay with each other, hobnob with each other, that was a big question mark. But then when we went to the storyboard, we kind of the drawing board, we really realized that no matter what happens, crisis builds communities, not separate them. That was the universal truth, that people will need people at the end of the day, social distancing and whatnot, but there will be people who would want to kind of again live with like-minded people. And we worked from there on and changed the entire narrative. So from a let's go live, we came to let's live better. And that is how we changed the entire brand narrative. And COVID actually worked as an advantage for us because this entire unorganized market went for a toss. People did not want to go back and live in PGs because they were unsafe now. Instead of being just unhygienic and slightly dingy and dirty, they became unsafe. And suddenly when something becomes unsafe, it becomes something that people do not want to be a part of. And from April, May, June onward, we started seeing people coming back. So people who had lived with us knew our narrative, knew our spaces, knew the community that they were living with us. We went into a lot of storytelling. We did a lot of videos around what our spaces were, what our people were like, profiling the people. And then we used, really we used the might of the crowd really, wherein we went back to our residents who were still staying with us, and we profiled them and their stories and why did they stay back at Hausa. And their stories were all built around safety, community, mindfulness, so they were not as anxious as people who were living alone. They still had friends to talk to. They were doing video calls among themselves. Stuff like that was happening. We were doing a lot of things around the do's and don'ts of COVID. We were doing their online sessions around telemedicine if somebody needed that, which one of our panelists was talking about. Then we were doing online wellness classes for them. So all of this became a big highlight and a brand highlight for people who had not till that point of time sampled Hausa. And which is where June onward we started seeing a big shift towards people ready to pay a little more to be certain that they were coming back to a safe, hygienic place, right? And to a place where they had like-minded people who were also very, very, upbeat about safety, security, sanitization, and all of that. So I think that really worked. In the second phase, it was all about spreading positivity, because there's a lot of anxiety right now in the system. So while millennials kind of understood this about June, July onward, that's, this disease is not so rampant in their, age group. It largely affects people 40 plus, 50 plus, but still there was a lot of anxiety because nothing was very, very clear. So we started having a lot of these, we called a lot of panel of doctors online, and we started answering some of their questions around the anxiety related to COVID. That helped in a big way because one, we were able to take some part of that anxiety away. Two, these guys coming together kind of figured out that now that they were living within Hausa, they were safe, right? And this led to a lot of demand for us. So right now, as we speak, we are in a new year. We are seeing cases go down of COVID overall in the nation, which is very heartening. And what we've built in this period is a very, very formidable, safe, hygienic brand. And that's the narrative that we kind of moved to, because that was clearly what we were doing from a concept stage also. But then it was not such a big thing for people. And now suddenly it became a big thing for people. So that change in narrative, understanding your consumer and being very transparent with them at all times, I think, is very, very helpful. So if you kind of are doing something which is an error, just own it up. Then they will always partner with you, collaborate with you to kind of make it work. If you do not own it up, if you try and kind of go around the bush and you kind of come up with excuses, that does not go down well with, especially the kind of the brand that we're building with the millennials. Right. So these are some of the things that one has to keep in mind. We are also a startup, by the way, so which means we did not have deep pockets, which meant that in the first phase there was a lot of scheming and a lot of deliberation around how do you cut your spends, how do you go back to your retailers, your partners, how do you kind of work with them. And when we did a lot of those things transparently, we figured out everyone was in the same quagmire, everyone was facing issues, and if you kind of worked well with each other, you could partake some of those sorrows of each other and could really make it work. The same case was with the residents. We were very, very upfront in telling them what we were doing at the property. We sent them videos of how other properties were being managed. I think that really worked. So I think in a nutshell, pre or post COVID, one of the things that's really changed is of course the narrative, but also the fact that the brand needs to be very, very transparent. And if you're transparent, then people will stand by you. And as we progress more, I will talk about the kind of thing that we did around the brand, the kind of what are the consumer sentiments we are seeing now, how are we what are the challenges we face now, how are we trying to kind of overcome them, all of that.
Yeah, Saurabh, I think so very, very good insight that you've given, and I like one thing which you said, that crisis build communities, and in crisis, I think you saw the opportunities. So in the crisis that you had, I think you reinvented yourself, and you're able to create a new market for yourself as a startup. So it's not only the larger organization look at this from this perspective, but I think the startups even more need to look at from that perspective, because they don't have a deep pockets and other stuff. Now, on my own experience, if I talk about telecom, I still remember I was in India at that time when the COVID came in, and now I've moved into Sri Lanka. So I'm, as of now, based out of Colombo. But when I was in India and we were looking at how the COVID situation is going to pan out, we realized that with the COVID and the lockdown, first lockdown, still remember, happened from 23rd March. That's when the first lockdown got declared, and telecom being the basic essential services on which the entire economy was running, and more so at the time when all of us were locked down. So for your all personal needs and professional and the economic needs, you need telecom services to be live and up. Now, one big challenge that telecom faces is the entire change in the consuming pattern of the consumers. So frankly speaking, the way the telecom network has been planned is that most of the time during the daytime, the consumption used to happen from the commercial centers. So whichever are the commercial centers in the country, that's where, or within the city, that's where the consumption used to happen. And during the night, the consumption used to shift to the residential areas. And residential area consumption was much lesser compared to a commercial area consumptions, because that's where you use the large applications and the daytime applications. Now suddenly it changed. Suddenly within 2 days and on 3 days, every consumption from commercial area moved to the residential areas. And the telecom networks were actually not made for that. And then I'm sure all of you must have suddenly faced a problem where there are buffering which is happening, your video is not working, your calls not working. And we were really in a fix what to do. Now, we didn't know whether this is going to be a long-term impact or is it going to be a short-term impact. And the biggest challenge that we had that time is, should we invest in this particular time to invest in the residential area? And probably the lockdown will get over after 15 days or 20 days time. Then what will we do with that capacity that we are putting up? Because this is something which can't be transferred so easily from one place to another place. But then we took the call that what is best for our consumers? The best for our consumer as of now is to provide them the service where they are. And that's when the entire industry took a call saying that, yes, we're going to invest in the area where consumer needs those services. So we actually went ahead and invested in the areas where the services were needed by the consumer. While it at that time looked like a short-term thing, but if I really look at now in retrospect, I think the entire industry did a great job of building up the capacities and doing that. Second big change in the consumer pattern which happened at that particular time was the digital buying. So what was happening, and to give you a perspective, in the South Asian market, nearly 95% of the business is a prepay business, where a consumer goes to a retailer and buy a coupon and does the recharge, or give money to the retailer and does a recharge. Now, suddenly with the lockdown happening, 95% of the consumer cannot go out. How do they recharge? Now, to give you a statistics, like in India, nearly 40% of the people are still using the phone which are not non-smartphones. You can't do digital recharges you using those phones. So what happens to this 40% population or 50% population who can't go out and do recharges? So again, industry came with a lot of initiatives at that particular time, saying that one is obviously giving the bare minimum thing to the people without charging them, so that at least they're in communication to the entire world. And second is, how can we handhold these people to get a recharge done while they can't move out? So we created an entire workforce of social entrepreneurs. So we said, okay, if you are an app user and you want to recharge a friend of yours, or you want to recharge somebody, I will give you some kind of a commission out of whatever that you're recharging. So it's like a source of income for you while you're sitting at home, but it also serves as a help to the other consumer who are not able to recharge. So suppose if I'm a smartphone user and I know there are I have my mates and I have my friends, or who do not have a smartphone and can't recharge because they're stuck at home, I can do recharges for them from my phone, and I get a particular earning commission. And then we created millions of such social entrepreneurs, because people are also sitting at home without job, without earning money. So for them, this kind of a job opportunity where they could earn at least something sitting at home also came in handy to a lot of people, and that created. And third big change that telecom industry did was on the service side, because there are a lot of times that you are having a problem with your telephone and you do not know, you can't walk out again to the store or to the nearby place to cater to that. So we created a lot of channels like chatbots, where you can actually now chat with any of the telecom company. You go to Facebook, you go to WhatsApp. Most of these platforms are now available, and you can actually, sitting at home, you can run your entire telecom life cycle without actually stepping out of your home. So I think again, this entire crisis pushed us to think out of the box, which probably would have happened, but would have happened maybe 3 years down the line. Okay, so what I typically say is this entire crisis has fast forwarded our growth on the digital pattern, and actually made us do things that we were thinking of doing but never had the courage to do. Okay, so it actually put, and both on the consumer side as well as on the cost sides. So a lot of things that we were wanting to eliminate, but we were not able to eliminate, because every process that you create has some kind of a standing in the organization, and there are a lot of resistance when you want to eliminate those processes. But these kind of crises gives you an opportunity to challenge the status quo, and look at the world in an absolutely de novo state. And that's what I think most of what I hear the panelists saying, that's everybody did. And key here is consumer. So whatever that we did in telecom industry, or what I hear Sudhir or Dola or Ajit or Saurabh talking about, is everything that the company did was keeping consumer in the center, saying what does your consumer need is what we need to deliver. And if you are able to do that within the ambit of your resources that you have, that's what a winning space that most of the industry have created. Now going to the second part of the conversation, I would like to ask again the co-panelist, and I heard Dola saying that she would like to share what she did, and I heard Saurabh saying and Sudhir saying they wanted to share. So I would like to open the forum for you guys to share. So Dola, why don't you start with you? But before you start, I would also urge the students, because now you have heard us about for 45 minutes to an hour. I would urge you guys to keep putting in questions if you have any questions about us, because we are keeping 15 minutes at the end to answer your questions. So keep putting on a chat bot here, which is there. So we will try to answer some of your questions while we are talking, or towards the end of the session. So I would really urge you guys to do that. So Dola, we'll start with you if you want to share, and then we'll move to Sudhir, and then Saurabh, and then we move on like that.
Sure, Ashish. So at PepsiCo's front, I think, let me mix, whether it was the product, the price, the packaging, the promotion, the places, the way we were distributing. And all of these were backed by heavy consumer insights. So let me go as Kotler tells us. So let's pick up product first. During COVID and the recoveries right after, the entire notion of Make in India, Atmanirbharta, all of that were at their peak. More so because and of course, the external factors from China really aided that. And we realized that at the end of the day, we are an MNC. Yes, we are international brands. Lay's is an international brand. Doritos is an international brand. So how do we offset the whole notion of this is external, this is not India. Okay, so our PR really had to work hard, and more so because almost all our competition, I mean, look at our competition, it's ITC, it's Indian, it's Haldiram, it's Indian, you know. So we had to up our game and communicate that we might be an international brand, but then we are in India for X number of years. We are employing X number of people. And even at a brand level, we started thinking, how do we really localize ourselves? And one of the manifestations in the product front is really Doritos, wherein for the first time, and this is probably one of the very few examples globally wherein Doritos has really launched a local, local flavor. This January, we have launched Doritos Masala Mayhem. And the way we call it internally is Doritos has Doritoized Indian masala, you know. And why do we do that? Look at all the flavors that we have. We have nacho cheese, which is an American flavor. We have sweet chili, which is a Mexican flavor. The product itself is a Mexican cuisine. I mean, nachos are Mexican, they're not Indian. But to that, give an Indian twist. The intention is that you penetrate down deeper and deeper and resonate more with the local sentiment. So that's one big change that we are doing at our end on a product front. Packaging. We revamped our packagings on a lot of products. We realized that packaging as an asset is something that helps connect you with your people even more, and more so when people are at their homes. So that's when we launched the whole Lays Smile campaign, which was about different kinds of smiles on different flavors of Lays, because every smile communicates something and every flavor of Lays communicates something. And of course, we added the whole shebang of Ranbir and Alia and the whole 360-degree work that we did around it. But at the end of the day, the intention was to draw connections with people, and Lays being the enabler to do it. And no better timing than COVID, when people are in their homes, wanting to connect with their people and friends and families more and more. So again, a big idea executed via packaging, but then solely anchored on the consumer truth of connections, and that being happening more and more in COVID. Pricing, and I know Sudhir touched upon it a little, but essentially more so in FMCG, there are two kinds of trends that we're seeing. One is people don't want to invest on high MRP packages. They want real affordability. That's why you see sanitizer sachets at 50 paisa now. I mean, 50 paisa does not even exist as a currency, but that's how it's being rolled out. So on our brands, we knew that we had to maintain availability of our low MRP SKUs. And that was the priority. And on the other hand, we also knew that people were reducing their trips to market. So affordability on large packs was also equally important. That's why you, for the first time, saw Pepsi coming out in rupees 50, 1.2 liter, and the whole Salman Khan ad that we did, that Badi Pepsi for Bada Swag. Why do we experiment with such price points? In fact, across Lays and Kurkure, we have moved to more homogeneous price points. So from earlier 10, 20, 35, 65, and those odd price points, post-COVID, we've moved to 10, 20, 30, 50, those even price points. Because those are the things that we picked up from consumers that make it easier for me. I don't want to take 5 rupees change from your Kirana store because it's COVID and I don't want to engage in a lot of transaction. Give me large bags, give me offers so that I can stock them in my pantry and I don't have to visit stores a lot. So our pricing really studied all of that and then moved. Promotions, of course, we were talking about the Airtel promotion, and that's one of the largest that we've done across brands. And the core insight being people are connected and they need data for connections. And so data helps you connect, but you need our brands, Lay's, Kurkure, and Doritos to connect with and connect over. So we kind of married all. We created 3 different communications on all the 3 brands. So Lay's had Ranbir on it, Kurkure had Akshay on it, and Doritos is not it does not have a star cast on it, but has always been about youth, 16 to 25-year-old people telling what you need to do with it. And it was very simple. Buy a pack of Doritos, 10 rupees, get a 1 GB data free. Buy a 20 rupee pack of Doritos and get a 2 GB data free. Now you're in the industry and you know, and for the benefit of others, a 1 GB data costs about 20 to 24 bucks. Anywhere across different partners and parameters. Now if you're buying a 10 rupee pack, you're actually getting 20 plus something worth of an experience with it. That's the extent of investment we went in, amplified it out fully, and the results were amazing. It was beyond amazing. In general, industry redemption rates are 2%. So any offer that you roll out, typically only 2% of the offers gets redeemed. On the Airtel promo, we crossed close to 6%. That was 3 times of the industry average. So, which clearly means that consumers valued that proposition and valued that offer. Lastly, distribution, a lot of innovation went in. And I was mentioning that we are a 90% Kirana store company. So how much digitization can you do, let's say, at a Raju Pan Bhandar? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a small shop. It's a small outlet. But we went digital to wherever we can. So for example, for the first time, we tied up with Swiggy to do direct to home deliveries, right from our plants to the consumer homes. And the intention is to scale it up more and more. We asked our retailers to start placing orders with our salesmen via WhatsApp. So we created a small app, a WhatsApp bot, a standard menu you can navigate through. 10 rupees ka Lay's 5 peti dal do. 20 rupees ka Kurkure 2 peti dal do. It's as simple as that. But it helps the retailers because our salesmen may not be able to visit the store every day because of the restrictions and stuff. But we invested in that capability. We invested in direct to selling. Some of our channels stopped working. So for example, Ajita would agree, QSRs, cinema halls, travel transport, all of these are going through possibly the worst phase in terms of their business. We had a huge stake in them because we were selling at subways, we were at PVR, we were selling at railways, we were selling at Indigo Airlines. All of them kind of got wiped away. So we are now creating backups for those industries because we know it's going to be a while they reach to their full potential. So we are moving our gears to e-commerce and significantly upping our game on performance marketing so that there is a bang for buck, anything that gets spent. So that's kind of in a nutshell of how COVID and the realities that have stemmed from it impacted almost every single element of the marketing mix. I'm just going to leave you with one last thought on this, and that's something that I have personally learned. More so as brand managers, and that's what I'd like the IIM Sirmaur students to appreciate. See, as brand managers, there's nothing that you do on your own. There's no product that you create on your own. There's no advertisement that you create on your own. There is no media plan that you create on your own. You just get briefs written. So all you can do is write a brief that I want this to happen to this people as this outcome. That's all. And then these briefs get executed by different cross-functional teams. So if you ask me, I think the biggest role of a brand manager is to have the right set of people skills. During lockdown, and I work with a team of about 200 people, internal, external, cross-functional, distributor partners, all of that put together. It was a task to get everyone together and keep them motivated because physically we were not meeting. I mean, at best we could do Zoom calls and keep more of them. But how do you work with your people to drive capabilities for them? We ran one of the maximum number of internal capability building sessions with our teams. We created modules for distributors that how can you make your business better during COVID? We created modules for budding marketeers to tell them how can you do marketing differently. So that was one step. Secondly, a lot of bonding. So I remember very small gestures. We sent out Domino's pizza boxes to all our partners and said that let's meet over lunch, 45 minutes. We'll just chill. We'll just talk. No business conversation. We'll just talk each other and do it over pizzas. Things like those, because like I said, there is nothing a brand manager does on his or her own. It's via people, and hence collecting the people together was very, very important. So yeah, almost all P's impacted, including the people P. You're on mute, Ashish.
Sorry. So I said thank you, Dola. I think you've very comprehensively touched all the P's of marketing, giving an example of how a situation can impact each one of them and how a successful brand can touch each one of them and continue to be relevant to the consumers in the changing times. So Sudhir, you wanted to add something, saying you wanted to add some from the experience that you had during this time. So would you like to talk about them?
Yeah, thanks. And I'm cognizant of the time, so I'll be fast, okay, quick, because we need to give them time to ask questions. I'm from a very different industry to most of you. So, it's not like a home consumer. We are basically an energy management and sustainability company. We make products which are which take care of electrical transmission, post generation. We are not in generation, transmission to the time it reaches your home on the switches and stuff like that. So everything in between, switch gears, panels, we run data centers, we have UPSs and stuff. So for us, when we look at the impact of COVID, we also see some things will not change. They will not come back to normal. Okay, and companies have realized quickly that they can be successful with the new normal too. For example, they not you won't see too much investment in real estate. You will see that working from home is a norm even when COVID is over. It will continue to be. And I think your decision on focusing on the residential market and improving bandwidth was a very good decision. Okay, because that's where it will continue to be. So things will change. Now, in our business, the customers were always used to warm body meetings. Okay, so you had an expert going, you had an expert talking to them, they had an expert at their end who would talk to us, and it's a higher level of discussion. Suddenly things change. People can't meet each other. They don't want to meet people directly. We don't want to send our sales guys. What do we do differently? How did we address this through digital solutions, through webinars and stuff like that, which we think we'll continue to do. Okay, so reaching customers to different methods than warm bodies will continue to do. Second is also we realize that to build opportunities when you're not going into the field and actually looking at things, it's so important to run AI tools and intelligence tools in the backend and look at profile of the assets and the customers and build opportunities through an engine in the backend instead of focusing more on the front end. So building opportunity pipes which were more intelligent in the back end. It's very important for the students here to understand how that changes the job market of the future. Okay, because that's a big impact of what I'm saying as we go along. Okay, so the second thing was how do you build opportunities when warm bodies are not reaching customers? Okay, so that's a different way. Then you looked at from a segment view, and this will not change very quickly in 2021 in my mind. You will still have healthcare booming because hospitals will still be in huge demand and they will do a lot. There will be data center. Data center, as you might be aware, the data passing through data centers grew by 40% during the COVID because for obvious reasons, and they continue to stay there. So they're booming. Okay, while there are some segments struggling, oil and gas is struggling. Oil prices are low and other things are impacting. So oil and gas is struggling, power and grid a little bit. There are some segments which are really struggling. What do they need now? The booming segment, like I say, healthcare, does not want to give any downtime for their equipment. They want it running 24/7. If something goes down and the hospital has to stay without using their equipments in the ICU, then you have a problem. Okay, because they lose a lot of money. So what kind of solutions do you offer them which gives you high availability to the customer? And then you look at another segment which is struggling. What kind of solutions which are focused on price? I won't use the word price, but what other innovative? For example, we are now giving energy as a service. So you don't have to buy capex. Okay, so we will give you all the equipment that you need to run your site, but we will sort of convert into an OPEX over a 5-year period time and things like that. So these are innovative offers that you come with. Many more. I'm very cognizant of the time, so I will not go on. Maybe separately, if somebody connects with me, I'll talk about that. But back to you, Ashish.
Thanks, Sudhir. I think good insights from you. And Saurabh, you wanted to share a few of the things that you did to keep continuing to attract the customers.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, as I was saying, just to kind of recap, since we are a very new category, I would want the students to kind of understand what we do. So Hauser is into co-living. So think of it as like a urban mini village where people are co-living, coexisting, collaborating, working with each other, right? So the way we do our buildings, and we have 300 to 500 people living together at any point of time in a single building, we repurpose the spaces. We create a lot of open common spaces like a lounge area, cafeteria, a gym, a restaurant, stuff like that. And then you have very, very well appointed, fully furnished rooms where you can take a single room, or you could share a room with your, buddy, right? Depending upon the price point that you would want to come into. So this was the pre-COVID, houses. How did it change, during COVID? And during COVID, there were largely two phases. There was the immediate COVID phase, which was the March, April, May kind of a phase, and then June onwards, how have we reimagined some of these things? So, for example, the lounge area. Now, this was the area which was the most used area pre-COVID. So, a lot of working professionals would come down to unwind in the evening after they come back from office. They would be on the PlayStations, they would be on the pool table, they would be playing chess and carom, or they just be with their books, reading something or hobnobbing with each other. Now, how does this change post-COVID, right? So we kind of reimagine the entire lounge area post-COVID because we closed the lounge area during COVID, right? April, May, June, nobody was allowed to kind of come down. People were in their rooms. So what we did June onwards is we created co-working stations in this. And we are an omni-channel in the sense that technology is a big enabler. We have an app where people can pay their rent, raise tickets, see the feed, what is happening in all the house of properties, partake in events and stuff like that. So what we did was we had a very small element which we had built on the tech side, which came to a big use. We had not put that in the app, but we had a booking engine at the back of the technology platform that we were building. We quickly built that with the technology team and we launched it where people sitting in their room could book a workstation downstairs. What we would do is as soon as that booking would come, we would go and sanitize that place. These were like containers so that you are inside and you could work, and we had high speed Wi-Fi over there. These are the two things we gave them. We gave them a table and a chair and a high-speed Wi-Fi in a container so that you are safe and secure. This was a very big hit. We saw bookings wherein people started asking us if we could build more such containers, if we could use part of the cafeteria, which we did eventually, because cafeteria was not also coming into use. So this was a big use case where you have to repurpose, reimagine. It is not about the cost. It is about how open are you to change, right? The cost was nothing compared to what we could drive as brand love and brand imagery, right, at the end of the day, and how utilitarian we could be in times of crisis. The other thing I would give you very, very quickly is what we did with our food. Now, food is a big thing at all the co-living places. We had our whole own cafeteria. We had a live kitchen. We had live counters pre-COVID. None of that could happen now, right? Because people could not, there was social distancing and all of that. So what we did was we quickly, one, we changed that area into co-working and all of that. Second is through our partner only, we worked on how we could deliver hot food to their rooms. So we developed a tiffin service, again backed by technology, where people could tell us what time did they want their lunch or dinner to be delivered. We had people who would go in PPE kits, deliver it outside the room. People were told how to consume the food and then pre-wash and keep the utensils at a certain place where they would be collected. So that is how food got delivered. So it was largely about how do you kind of put the pieces in times of crisis and make everything work. The third part, which very quickly I would talk about, is creating house of buddies. So what we did was we figured out there was a lot of anxiety as I was talking about earlier. So within the group of residents, we identified people who were more outspoken, more willing to speak to others, and we created a program called House of Buddies. Again, backed by technology, but not something that we started from scratch. So we had a ticketing platform where people could raise their issues of AC not working or a pipe leakage and somebody go and fix that. A small sub part of that is what we took out to the help of the tech team. And we, created a chat room kind of a thing where Hauser buddies were available 24/7 and people could go and chat with them on anything that they wanted to chat on. And we saw beyond anxiety, people started chatting about the movies that they loved, the music that they loved. And there was a lot of conversation that started happening. People started it gave them the feeling of that they were together, not physically, but still they could see each other's faces. So it had both audio and video as the platform. So some of these things, fundamentally changed, how we were doing business before and how we were doing business after. Also, as I always say, COVID kind of that no other brand, single brand could do or a single brand could do. COVID changed consumer preferences. Now you have to very, very quickly kind of understand what does that do to the share of wallet, let's say, of the consumer. So earlier, if he had 100 rupees, there were 5 or 7 things that he was spending on. How's that changing? And where is the opportunity there for you as a brand to intervene, come in, have a narrative, and create brand love? Right.
So I think sort of very, very relevant point. And again, I think picking up from you, the 2020 would have created the biggest innovations in the world in the last 5 years. So if you really reflect back and see how you have changed the way, whether it is a product, a process, a service, or a cost, the biggest innovations of last 5 years for most of the companies would have come in this time, because we were really challenged and we were up against the wall. And then there was no other way to find a new way of doing stuff, and that brought a lot of challenge. Now that brings me to the question, which is, I think, which will be very relevant for the student segments who are there, that in the new COVID situation, what new skill sets they need to acquire over a period of time, so that they can be more successful in the new normal or the post-COVID situation. So Ajita, why don't we start with you, and what are your views on that?
See, thanks, Ashish. I think in the new post-COVID era, I mean, typically I would say, whether post-COVID or pre-COVID, there's one thing which definitely should be a part of your skill set, which is, the risk-taking abilities. Why I'm saying this is because I will just take an example of McDonald's. What really happened at McDonald's, pre-COVID, nobody was aware that such a pandemic would strike, so soon. And you guys would be aware that McDonald's has their own delivery fleet. We have our own, delivery app, which is called McDelivery. We have a fleet of almost close to 1,000 riders with us at various restaurants. And north and east zone of McDonald's was completely not on Zomato or Swiggy. We were just getting orders from these two apps, but we were not delivering through them. And it was a conscious business decision which we took, that we have our own app, we have our own fleet of riders. Why should we pay extra commission to these two apps? And they charge, humongous amount of commission from you, which actually, and the kind of setup in which we used to operate, QSR chain, and being an affordable QSR chain, I mean, we deliver a burger at just 36 rupees to consumers. It's not that easy to meet your EBITDA targets. So it was a huge challenge. It was a huge, I would say, kind of, point of discussion which used to happen with the management while marketing wanted to, be on these platforms. I mean, the business head never wanted to be. And there was a separate business case, in fact, which I had to push along with my operations lead. Operations is basically, the sales guys. So with the sales lead, to convince them that please let us be on these two channels to deliver as well, because we were limiting our reach to the audience. We were not being relevant, and it was being thrown up in every consumer research, and consumers were coming back to us and saying that, why you are not delivering, why you are not there, I cannot order through Zomato and Swiggy in my area. Your McDelivery app doesn't, deliver in my area, because we had a limited reach only in the radius of, say, 10 kilometers around the restaurant. So it was a huge, I would say, a need gap. And we were getting just 5% of our sales, 5 to 10% of our sales from online deliveries. And the brand was quite happy with that. So there was a different business case which we had to develop, wherein we had launched a different kind of, I would say, product combos, especially to cater to these online delivery apps, so that there is we can slightly have a kind of buffer in the pricing, so that it delivers to the business EBITDA targets as well, and we are able to cater to the consumers. So that's how we managed, that's how we started. And when we started, it was October 2019, when actually, all of us, we took the brand completely to Swiggy and Zomato in north and east of India. And then we started the sales rising. And by the time I had left, it was already contributing close to 25% of the sales. And everyone was, gung-ho. In fact, there were restaurants, McDonald's restaurants in places like Dwarka and places like malls, wherein the traffic and the footfalls had reduced. So we were on the verge of closing those restaurants, but actually delivery, going on Swiggy and Zomato, saved those restaurants, because they were getting so many orders from those restaurants that it just made sense to keep those restaurants open. So in a way, it helped the brand increase their reach. It helped even the business to sustain themselves. And post COVID, what I got to know from my team members, that now it's contributing close to 50% of the sales. So it helped the brand sustain. This is something. So why I'm giving you guys this example is, at times business won't agree, your bosses may not agree, but you have to have that belief. And of course, you have to take a calculated risk. You just can't tell the business that, no, I have to do this. I think consumers are relevant. You have to make business sense also. You have to take calculated risk. even if they don't allow you to do that, do pilot tests, do prototypes, and see and give them the results that, hey, now we can probably scale it up. And that's how we also went with it. So I would say yes, I mean, digitization, that's how it really saved the brand. And even now in my current company, cancer is what we are dealing with, and cancer is in fact among the leading causes of death in India. And cancer is a disease which spreads very fast. I mean, you cannot postpone your treatment. If you're going through a chemotherapy, you cannot postpone it. So the concept with which we came up with during these times were, can we deliver home cancer care? And you have to think out of box. And we met with so much of resistance, from oncologists saying that we cannot be there at home because, for 5 minutes, these oncologists charge 1,000 rupees. So we came up with an innovative solution saying that we will do live streaming. You just have to supervise it, and through one of our partner, we can manage it. So innovative thinking, I think, meeting with the resistance and having that kind of conviction in yourself, it will help you sail through any kind of situation. I would say it's not something specific which you need, but definitely the zeal to I mean, like everyone said, keep your customers in the center, and they will give you the solutions. They will even show you the way forward. That's something which with the mindset as a marketer we work with, and definitely it has helped us even now, I mean, post-COVID era.
I think thanks, Geeta. I think the point that you bring in is very relevant. That in the new situation, which is very volatile, and the VUCA world that we're living in, the risk-taking ability for the new generation is very key, and a calculated risk-taking ability is very key. And I would also like to add another thing to this is because when I keep meeting young students coming to work with us, either as trainees and other stuff, one thing which is becoming more and more relevant is the knowledge of digital technology. So while all of us says that digital doesn't mean actually you need to be coders. We don't want you to be the AIMI code writers and then learn that. But you should know in whatever area that you want to pursue. So you're an HR guy, or you're a finance person or a marketing person. You need to know how is the technology impacting your areas of work, and how can you use technology to probably take your work area to the next level. So your ability to understand, to apply technology in your area of work is very important. And because now more and more, as you've seen, and I keep joking about it, saying that in the last 1 year, the COVID has pushed the entire population of the world to take a crash course on digital technology. Because now we can't survive without doing that digital thing. And this is going to get accelerated as we keep going further. So it's very important that you become very technical friendly or digital friendly in your approach. And the best way to do that is learn more about how technology can be put to use. So that's another skill set I think all the people who are coming out of the management should have. So Dola, what do you think? What other skill sets that these kids would need probably when they join the workforce?
Sure, Ashish. I think picked up some of the most important ones. But let me, from my side, add two more to it. One, which is irrespective whether COVID came or did not come. I mean, that was a reality always, more so in brand management. And number two, something that's right now more in demand after COVID. So let me tackle the first one first. I think, let me go back to when I was doing my MBA from IMK and always aspiring to be a brand manager. I think most of us want to be just the brand managers. Make advertisements, meet directors, meet celebrities, and make films and stuff. But for most of us, we're met with the hard choice that at least the first 2 to 3 years is in hardcore sales. And I did that. I mean, when I joined PepsiCo, obviously I wanted to be on brand Pepsi and make advertisements. But I didn't get to make advertisements for the first 5 years of my career in PepsiCo. The first 3 years were actually in hardcore sales. And when I say hardcore sales, it's literally retail sales in the villages of Haryana, traveling with pack of chips with the team and selling retail to retail. I hated it that time, honestly, because when you are doing your MBA, that's not what you want to do. You want to sit in plush offices and under the ACs and make fancy projects and strategies. But the 3 years of sales for me is something that really pushes me different from most other brand managers who have not done sales. Primarily because I started learning a lot of marketing during sales. Because the first set of consumers you actually meet is your customers. Why do they stock a product? Why do they not stock a product? What is the importance of discounting? What is the importance of salesman incentives? What sells and what does not sell? All of those, and the fact that whatever strategies you make in whichever corporate, it gets executed by one salesman at a store who may not be as educated but knows the business more than you, is something that needs. So my first recommendation to anybody and everybody out here, I mean the 200 of us, if you are aspiring to be a brand manager, please aspire to be in sales. You may hate it, but even in your interviews, you should say that I want to do sales for the first 3 years. Okay, so that's rule number one, and that's tip number one. Number two, this skill again is, I wouldn't say is dependent on COVID, but because of COVID, it has really risen to another level. Of course, technology is one aspect, Ashish, that you spoke about, and of course, I can't stress more on it. But the second one is basic ability to solve problems. Basic knack to be a consultant. I think beyond a point, all of us are consultants. And as you grow up the ladder in your career, or even when you start out, your ability to solve a problem is something that's going to take you way, way apart. So what can you do to inbuild that right now? Do participate in all the case study competitions that come your way. You may not win. I mean, 2 years of IMK, I think I would have participated in the maximum number of contests. I won none, like zero. Okay. But what it did leave me at the end of the 2 years was the ability to solve problems in one way. The basic ability to have some sort of a street smartness that kara nahi hai solve, but kar sakta hu, kabhi bhi, I can at least go for it. So have that problem solver hat on you, because any and every business today, given the uncertainties that we're faced with, will need you to evaluate new things, will need you to reinvent new processes, will need you to scrap the holy cows of past and start something all fresh again. So hence my request that please do participate in case study competitions, please do take up live projects. Not just for resumes, but for yourselves to just learn and solve the issues and come out. Rest, marketing is not a difficult domain. I would say it's simpler than most technical domains because it's very intuitive. It's very consumer friendly. So so long as you're able to manage these two, sales friendly and problem solving ability, I think you should have a great start.
I can't agree with you more, Dola, because I always believe, and a lot of people come and keep asking me that with the AI, ML coming into picture, are the jobs going to go away? What's going to happen when the robotics is going to be around? So I keep telling them, I said, like, all these skill sets, all these technical things which are coming up, which is AI, ML, robotics, RPAs, and other stuff, are only taking the lower level jobs out. The higher level jobs, and when I say higher level jobs, at least I expect the people who are coming from the management institute to pick up a higher level job, which requires critical thinking. And critical thinking is what I think, Dola, you talked about, which is saying the problem solving. And that's the biggest skill which is needed in the industry today. If you really ask me if we have to recruit people, what is one thing that we look at? One thing that we look at is the learning attitude, and second is the problem solving ability of a person. Does the person has an aptitude to solve a problem? So I think very, very relevant point made by you, Dola. Thank you for making that point. Sudhir, what are your views on this? What skill sets people do need?
Yeah, I will look at from the industry point of view, and if you see long back there was this industrial revolution in the UK, which is we call as the industry version 1, where factories came, where they employed labor, they got labor in, and a lot of job creation at the lower end, where people did stuff from 9 to 6, and they worked and went home. Okay, they were all part of an engine. Then we went into different versions of that. We began to automate them. We began to get into the IT age, which was the version 3. And now, like you correctly said a little while earlier, we are into the digital age. Okay, so when I look at this, there are 3-4 things. One is everybody has to be digital savvy. You will not get hired if you're not digital savvy. It doesn't matter what you do in the organization. Okay, that's very, very clear. And it's very easy for the younger generation. They grow up with mobile phones and smartphones. So digital is fairly easy. It's more difficult for guys like us. The second thing is, like you mentioned, AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning is going to do a lot of things more than you imagine. And it's going to do faster now because COVID, people have learned. I'm investing a lot of money and effort in building this. And I can tell you one thing with a lot of confidence, maybe a little scary, maybe also exciting the way you look. most of the repeatable jobs that are there today will go away. Everything that is repeatable will go away. And just keep thinking of what all things which are repeatable skills. Let me give you an example. For example, let me give a provocative example, which I think Ajita's field is. Okay, so doctors, and there are two kinds of doctors. The ones which you do basic diagnosis may be a job which can be replaced by a robot. Okay, so that might go away. But nurses, for example, the healthcare people, the human part of the whole healthcare will not go away because that robots can't replicate that. Okay, so and just to take from what Dola just said, the creative part of the brain will not go away because that can't be replicated. The logical part will go away. That will all get replicated. Okay, so ideas or anything which needs risk taking, creative thinking, building new startups like Saurabh is doing, they're all creative part of the mind and they will not go away. So for management students, let me leave with something more provocative to you. If you understand the difference between management and leadership, my sense is someday management will go away. It can replicate it. Leadership will never go away. The ability to inspire people, to touch people, to build relationships will never go away. It can't be done by a robot. Understand this, build skills in that area. That's the only way. Nothing to be worried about, nothing to be scared. Upskill into those areas. Okay, that's the message I can leave with them.
Thank you, Sudhir. Saurabh, quickly to you. What are your 2 bits on this?
So I think Sudhir, Dola, everyone else, including you, made some very, very good points. I think I see it is largely these were always the skill sets that you needed to be successful in the market. It's just that there's been a little bit of a rejig. So there's been reapportioning. So if one skill meant 20%, maybe it's a 40% now. If one skill was very important in pre-COVID and was a 60%, maybe it's a 40-45%. But I think some of the key skills that you guys talked about, important, just adding to that, leadership is very important. And provocative, but it should. So to all the students who are listening, leadership is not about the number of years you put into your profession. Leadership is about a stat. If you can demonstrate your ability to manage others, if you can demonstrate your ability to work with others, that's leadership for me. That's one trait that I really, really look out for in candidates when we are hiring for business schools like and more. Then another, right, because as you get into more uncertain time, this was one virus which came in and unsettled everything. There'll be many more in future. How do you kind of build yourself for flexibility and adaptability? How do you build yourself wherein 1 year you would work from home, the next year you would work from an office, then part-time home and part-time office? Your teams could be anywhere, spread across geographies. How do you build yourself for that? Right? So flexibility and adaptability for me is very, very important. Critical thinking, yes, very, very important. Because if you're not a problem solver, you're not a part of the core team. You don't, rise up. Problem solving is very, very important. The ability to distill, noise and is very, very important. There's so much of fake news. Based on data and your intuition is very, very important. Tech savvy, yes, very important. It was always important, but I think now the real struggle is for people like us, not for the digital natives, like the students who are already born with technology, but for people like us, wherein the consumer knows more about tech than us now. So how do you make sure you're always on top of that? Earlier, there were a lot of hardwired offline consumers. Now they've all been thrown into the deep end of the online commerce pool. And overnight, they have figured out how to, purchase online, make transactions online, consume content online. How do you stay on top of that? How do you are one step ahead on that? How do you know what are they going to like or dislike next? That's very, very important. Yeah.
I think Saurabh, very relevant points. So thank you very much for all of you guys to make these relevant points. And I think we are reaching towards the end. So last 2 minutes. Unfortunately, we don't have a question answer sessions, but I think for all the young students, if you really want to connect with each one of us, we'll be open for LinkedIn requests from all you guys. And I'm sure Dola, Ajit, Saurabh, and Sudhir would also be open for that. So you can link us with us on the LinkedIn profiles. And if you have any questions which are directed to us, we'll be more than happy to answer your questions on these two platforms. But I just read, I've just read three chats which were there on the questions. One typical, I'll try to quickly answer from my perspective. First question, I think consumer behavior, you heard a lot. Second, there's a question saying 50% people working from home. Will it change? Will it remain like this? Purely my perspective, no, it's not going to remain that everybody's always going to work from home. But I surely see that this will create a much more flexibility in the working environment. So more and more organizations are now becoming flexible, and hence there will be a right balance, and each industry will have a different balance depending upon what kind of requirements that people would have. So that's one. And second question, which I see here is saying significant shift in the consumer behavior, 5 quarters model, what will happen? So guys, as we were saying, the change that we are seeing was anyway supposed to happen. Okay, if it couldn't happen today, it would have happened 2 years down the line or 3 years down the line. So industries, whatever they're supposed to do, they're anyway supposed to do that. The threat of new entrant and threat of digital disruption is as much real today as it would have been without a COVID. So industries anyways have to remain relevant to the consumer needs if they want to survive, whether COVID or without COVID. And you've seen a lot of examples shared by the panelists here, that how they have changed those situations, and they've come alive. So with that, I would like to end this session, and thank you very much for a patience listening, and thank you very much, ma'am, for inviting us for this, and thank you very much for co-panelists for a wonderful, fantastic discussion. It's really enriching for me also. So over to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
It was really an enriching experience listening to all of you and sitting through the session. I'm also sort of enlightened on many of the aspects. Thank you very much for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ashish Chandra sir,
Yes,
for
bye.
moderating the panel. Thank you, Ajita ma'am. Thank you, Saurabh sir. Thank you, Dola ma'am. And thank you, Sudhir sir.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
this session was very wonderful enlightenment, and we learned a lot about the theme which was given. I'm sure that all of our students have gained a lot and experience from this. Also, the key aspects which were mentioned, like risk-taking ability, the consumer-centric behavior, and the technology and digital means. Also, proper sales channels and the ability to change and adapt. Those things were really very enlightenment and thoughtful. Thank you, sir, for giving such an enlightening session. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir. Bye-bye.
Also, I request all the attendees to join the next session link, which has already been provided. Thank you.